Welcome back. John Busch here, founder of REYL Talk, and I'm excited to bring to you guys our guest today. Danny, awesome. Thank you for being here. I know you're a father. I know you do some cool stuff, passionate about men's work. We connected online briefly. So in all transparency, don't know you too well. This is like our first interaction, and I know it's going to be awesome. I see what he puts out online, and I'm excited to just dig deeper and pull some really cool stories out and just connect and have an awesome man-to-man talk. So thanks for taking your time away from your family and being here today, man.
Yeah, John, thank you. It's an honor to be here and talk about things that men need to talk about.
Yes. I'd love to give the guys a little bit of backstory. So before we dive in, give us a story of what's the story behind the man that you've become and maybe who shaped you most as a man.
I think without a doubt, the reason I am who I am today is because of my wife. And kind of in meeting her, I guess I would say like the calling forth of the best version of myself that needed to show up in my life. So I would say that is why I am the way that I am today. Now there many mentors along the way, many people, along the way, but that would be the reason I am why I am today.
Awesome, dude.
Yeah.
What's your journey been like? We focus on 3 different things primarily in this podcast. So we're either hitting like mental, emotional, or physical. Do you have one of those 3 that has kind of been your biggest challenge in your life personally, or a couple of them that have helped you grow?
Well, I spent over almost 2 decades in the fitness business. I had a gym in Los Angeles, so there was a very, very intense like physical pursuit in my life. I thought originally before I went into that what I wanted in a partner was physical fitness, and I came to find out that was actually something I desired for myself, and that was a mistake of a relationship, a learning curve there. So for me, the doorway has always been physical, and in that physical pursuit, I could find the mental, I could find the emotional, but it was because I was keeping the rhythm, let's say physically, then I could access the other ones.
Very cool. So there was some discipline there that kind of drove other habits, I guess is
Yeah,
that
yeah, because
an
I feel like
accurate way to say it?
I grew up very, it's sad to say, but like very shallowly. I wasn't, I don't feel like my life was of a ton of depth growing up
Okay.
until I was probably 30 or so. But I had success. I graduated from Big 12 University. I was a great athlete when I was younger. I was an Eagle Scout. I got straight A's. Like I did all the things,
Yeah.
but in meeting my wife and finding the depth that was there, I realized I wasn't intentional in my previous version of myself, right? And so that was where like depth showed up in my life. And not that I didn't have a good experience, but I realized that there was much more to this space we are in.
Awesome. So a little bit more to, some depth of character. I've loved that. Like I crossed the 40 threshold last year, and I feel like each decade you graduate into some different things, like
Yeah.
filters and different things that you get away with. And it was kind of funny. My wife and I were walking through the grocery store the other day, and we saw this dude's 80 plus Vietnam War veteran. Like I could tell he was in the grocery store purely to try to accidentally but intentionally run into people, give him his life story. And we talked to him for probably half an hour. But the reason he stopped us, I love how he stopped us. It was my wife had a terrible fall, like got up too fast, passed out, and like smashed her head, got a bad concussion, but her whole eye is just black and blue. And
Oh,
he's like, do I got to kick this guy's ass? Like, what's going
yeah.
on? Tell me he
Yeah.
didn't put his hands on
Yeah.
you. And I was like, I love that. That was so great. Like each decade. So I felt like for me, I've tried to be a little bit more intentional about the decades, but I love that you're saying like around 30, like right in your 20s, you're like, I got it all figured out. And then around 30, you're like, man, I got so much to learn. And then at 40, I'm like,
Sure.
there's some different filters. I'm setting healthier boundaries. I'm allowing myself to kind of grow in different ways. So I'm loving this journey of life and how I've walked through it. Is there anything that you feel like in your teens, in your 20s, in your 30s, where you're at now, like, that you just had a big aha moment? If you had like, a specific person outside of your wife or before your wife, like, or was it just her, right? Like meeting her was that much of a turning point for you.
I mean, it was definitely her that in meeting her and falling in love with her, having our kids, losing her, that was a huge shift for me. That around 30 was when there's stages that like men go through as we get older, and that was a big stage for me where I was like, oh, life is going to be a lot more responsibility, and it's not just fun all the time, and there's depth, and there's so much more to it. So for me, that was probably another big turning point I had was when I was 25 maybe, or so, I had kind of like the coming to terms with my dad talk. Like for me in my life, and this is I think very common among males, I butt heads with my dad. They're just very naturally. Anger was a big thing. So it was at that point that we kind of had our conversation of like, hey, this was my experience in life. This was how this made me feel. And that was just basically me telling him that. And then after that conversation, which was probably 2 hours, me just sobbing came after a huge breakup in my life. He goes, I feel the exact same way,
Wow.
except my dad's dead and I can't have this conversation. And in that moment, I felt a huge release of, let's say, burden of like shame and guilt and all those things, because I realized that this thing that I've thought like this cannon aiming at me for my whole life is not actually something aiming at me.
Yeah.
It's something that just passes down.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I was like, oh, I'm free to kind of move as I wish, and there's no shame and there's no guilt, right? And then so me and my dad have gotten much closer throughout my life, and that was very healing for me as a man. And then after that, I then did the fitness thing, moved to California, met my wife, had my kids, so it was like that was
Very
a
cool.
portal walk through where it was like, whoa, this is a big deal.
That was about what age?
It was in '07, I believe.
Okay.
And I was born in '81, so 26.
26. Cool.
Yeah,
That's
I
a
was
pretty
on my
big
own, but yeah.
pretty big revelation, man, in your 20s. That's awesome. I was out the door at 19, and never looked back. I think I met my wife maybe a little bit too young. We met at 15, got married 2
Holy
years
cow.
after high school. So that's part of the reason we have so many kids, but I love it. And she's been, yeah, I share a lot of similar sentiments to what you're saying, because before her, there was a lot of things in my life I didn't have really a lot of aspirations. It was go to work at a job, kind of following my father's footsteps, 40-year career, factory
Sure.
worker, good tradesman, which these days is a great thing. There's all the shortage, and one of my boys is getting ready to start welding school, and I'm like, cool, go do it. Like there's a major shortage now, but I love that you're sharing that you had this moment in your mid-20s with your dad. My dad and I have had some fun talks too. Like he's like, dude, you got 9 kids. I had 2. I can't give you fatherly advice anymore. You got to look some
Yeah.
other places for that. And it took me a while to feel like that wasn't wrong. Like I wasn't doing something wrong to honor my own father, to look outside of him, to go to other people for marriage, relationship, family, spiritual. Like that felt really, really good. So I'm happy that you had that kind of clarity, but I'm curious to know, like, were there traditions from him that you did bring forward, or were there some other things you left behind? What have you kind of added to your own toolbox as you've kind of mended and then grown that relationship with your dad?
That kind of allowed me to have a lot more grace in my life and a lot more patience. Also, kind of like letting go of the anger thing. It's like if I don't like something, that I don't have to be angry about it, right? I can have grace with it. And then having my own children, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, I can have grace in this moment. I don't need to react with anger and it's just always a constant battle because it's always under the surface, right? It doesn't go away. It's not like you like fix it and it's done. Like you can always see the mend in a broken fence, right? But it has allowed me to move through, I'd say, marriage and fatherhood in a much less encumbered way
Cool.
and feel like I'm creating something as opposed to like passing something along. And also appreciate my relationship with him, his relationship with my kids, his relationship with my wife, instead of resenting, because
Yeah,
that just drives distance. It puts distance between the two of you, right? And that's
for
not a
sure.
good thing. So it allowed me to just have a relationship with him, which was really good because if I want to put up a boundary, I'll put up a very firm boundary and it won't be crossed. And I know that that's destructive in the long run, especially when you have grandkids and things like that. So it's really just allowed me to kind of move forward in a way that unifies us, which is better.
Awesome. I love that. And I mean, let me ask you this question, because being in the fitness world for a while too, you might have heard of this. So there's some recent research. I don't know if you go down like some genealogy lanes or do any, kind of family, more like historical work and ancestry work. There's a cool research article that came out that was actually talking about how trauma is passed down through the fathers, like
Yeah.
through the seed, right? And then you talk about and read like in the Bible, traditions of our fathers and different things. And I'm like, wow, that made me stop in my tracks one day and realize like there was legit. So for him to say that, for him to share with you, hey, thanks for having this conversation. And by the way, like my dad's gone. I can't have this with him. Like that's wild. They're just, those previous generations were so tough and so hardworking. I don't know that there was room in their lives. Otherwise it would have been seen probably as a weakness, right? Like to their credit, I don't know that they even had the time to think about like emotional intelligence or
Yeah.
increasing that capacity or being like life was just so hard through depression, through
Yeah.
different time frames. Like I give those guys sometimes it's to be like, oh, they didn't have any emotional intelligence. And I see guys make a quick comment, but I'm like, we don't know what it's like to starve the way that they did. We don't know, like it's been pretty good for the last 15-ish years for the
Yeah.
most part for us, like for quite some time. I was born in 84. So I'm like, it's been okay for quite a
Yeah.
while.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. So curious to know, have you heard of that research study? Like heard of like trauma literally being passed down through the
Yeah.
fathers, through that lineage?
Yes, there's so a lot of times. So there's epigenetics, right? Which is what that is. Which is where like I was thinking of it from the female role. It also works on the male side, but in the female role, a woman is born with all of her eggs. So if trauma happens to, let's say, a pregnant mother, her baby takes that trauma on, her eggs take that on. And that's the third generation. The Bible talks about it to the third and fourth generations. And it's like, well, there it is. Science just proves the Bible again, right? But it's that thing, like it truly is. And then I've had some interesting work done with some like energy work with a guy who said that my father and I have been entangled for 8 lifetimes, not as father and son, but as souls, which is like a whole nother rabbit hole that you can go down and like run
Yeah.
through, whatever.
Yeah.
Personally, I believe all this stuff points at God. That's my view. Now, people get weird about stuff, but it's the truth, right? The things that we have, the damage that has been done to us, we are responsible to take care of. But there's also things that have been done to us that weren't us, that we just take on through being in a family line. And then we have to be knowledgeable about that before our kids receive the things.
Agreed.
And it takes some grace in your perspective to receive that information and realize that it's not about you, it's not about me, it's not about them, it's about all of us. And we've got to extract the bad things and hold on to the good ones.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think it's fun. I think it's amazing. I think it's, and then it goes into like the stories you tell yourself and then the evidence you look for to support your stories and all that stuff. There's so much to it. There's so much depth to it. But yeah, I love that stuff.
I do as well. I do a lot of the Wayne Dyer stuff too, the thoughts, feelings, actions, and kind of working through stuff in that order. And I love,
Yeah.
yeah. Let's stay on fatherhood for a sec because we've had, before we jumped on, I know you're juggling a lot. You're handling some kids that are under the weather today. And like that's admirable, man. There's a lot of times that it's difficult for a man to show up vulnerably and not like it takes a strong man to show up in a level of vulnerability to be available for his kids in that capacity, right? Like
Sure.
I don't say it to downplay anything that men do because it's all hard, right? Like life is hard and we're here to grow, we're here to learn. But I've often said that like from an emotional standpoint, it is easier to leave and go to work for 8, 10, and 12 hours and come back home
Yeah.
than it
Yeah.
is to stay in the home for 8, 10, 12 hours and understand what that's like. Like I've had kind of both perspectives over the last couple of years, and my wife and I had a big switch, and like she's in a corporate role right now, and I'm like, the kids are looking at me like homeschooling and other stuff. I'm like, let's go play ball. Like I like took me time to grow and figure that out and not just let the ego drive conversations when my 17-year-old wants to butt heads with me and just, really challenging and like, right, not to lose my temper. And like, man, it's forced some work on me. So what has helped you most as a father in your role? Cause I can tell the type of dad you are and caring, loving, like that takes some work to get there. What advice would you give younger dads, newer dads that are like on that journey now?
It was something that I tend to be a person to learn the hard way.
Okay.
That's
Same.
just how I am. I'm kind of dense, I guess, in that regard. But I was always the working one. My wife always stayed home. But then we swapped roles as well one time. And I was home. And I was, at that point, we had moved back from Los Angeles, back to my parents' farm. And I was at home at my parents' house trying to parent my kids, which is a very challenging thing to do. But that was when I learned to cook. I learned about what being home all day was about. And it is, my goodness, it is going to work may be hard, and it is, but being home all day is complete chaos
It
because
is.
you don't leave. Then your person comes home and you're still there. So it gave me a real respect for her and her roles that she had all this time. Yeah, for the young men, it's just have you heard of the trouble tree?
No.
Okay, so and this is an interesting way to go about this, but so there's a story about this lawn guy, and he has, you can imagine all the stuff on his truck or whatever, and his truck breaks down. Well, his boss, the guy that runs the company, is driving home and sees his employee on the side of the road. Is like, hey, can I give you a ride home? Yes, you can. Drives him home, and they get home. They leave the truck with all the lawn stuff, on the side of the road, and they get home, and the guy, before he goes in his house, he stops and he puts his hands on a tree, and he closes his eyes and he pauses for, I don't know, 20 seconds, and then he goes to the door, and the door opens, and his family's like freaking. They're so excited to see him. He's celebrating, like he's so happy. He's just carefree, hugs, and all these things. And then he goes, hey, my boss came over. He wanted to have dinner with us. Oh my God, welcome. And they have this big dinner and the best evening ever. Then when he's leaving, the boss at the end of the night, he goes outside and he goes, hey, can I ask you a question? He said, yeah. He said, what did you do with the tree? Like you had a terrible day. Like your truck is still on the side of the road. And no one's fixed that. You were completely joyful when you went to see your family. And he goes, well, that's my trouble tree. When I come home every night, I take all my troubles for the day and I'm hang them on the tree. And then I go in and I have my night with my family. And when I come out in the next morning, he goes, a lot of them are gone. And it's his way of saying that like he gives everything to God, right? And that's his thing. But it's the thing that really stood out to me was like, how many times have I gone home and worried about the thing from the day, not showing up for my wife and not showing up for my kids? And it is such a daily struggle for men. And it is for some women as well. I'm not saying it's just a men thing, but it's primarily the man who's out there in the world. It's like, it's hard to not carry that into your house, and it's destructive to your relationships. And so that was really profound in keeping that to the front of my mind and like being intentional with my time. And I still battle. I'm not saying I'm perfect at all. Like that is not what I'm saying at all. But then, even in like losing my wife, it's like, was I intentional with my time that I had with her? I mean, it's a real rough conversation to have, and that story stood out to me so much. And it was like, we really need to be intentional and bring our emotions into the game, right? We need to be vulnerable with our kids and our wives and our communities. And there's this thing that I call it the vulnerability vacuum. When someone's vulnerable, all the air sucks out of the room. Everybody comes right together. And it's amazing. If you watch like did you see what was it? There was an award speech where a little boy asked Tom Brady who his hero was. Did you see that? Dude, you got to look it up. I'm pretty sure it's Tom Brady, but he asked him who his hero is. And Tom Brady, of course, is giving his speech and he's very well composed like he is. And then he breaks down because it was his dad. And he breaks down and you watch the video, but you can feel the room, like it shifts. And it's like, wait a minute, what was just an interview, some kid just broke it into something way more. And it's like that vulnerability is a weapon of the best kind. And we, as fathers, I hate to say it, a lot of times choose to not use it.
Right.
I don't know, of a story we tell ourselves, or, it's inconvenient or whatever. And it's a sad miss, right? We should lean into it.
Yeah. So what a great story. Great story. That's this got me thinking about a number of things, man. It is one of the greatest blessings. Like I so desire for young men, and I know there's a lot of battles with different things in parts of the podcast. We go into health stuff, we talk testosterone and digging into infertility and the other issues and challenges these men face. But man, there's nothing that will grow you into the man that you were meant to be and force you to face every single demon and challenge that is inside of you, like a child and children will. Like fatherhood is so fantastic. Like
it's
absolutely
amazing.
As hard as it is, I'm like, it's all I want to do. It's the reason that we do everything we do, but it's fantastic. So yeah, we've shared the vulnerable struggles with our kids too, and the hard times and stuff like that. I'm like, babe, we're not helping these guys grow, right? For us to kind of keep them from things. I'm thinking about sometimes, like, I grew up nice, controlled environment, like never ever saw my parents fight. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then my wife and I had our first couple of disagreements in young married life. And I'm like, wait, like, what is this? Like, I never saw this. Or like, actually, the absence of that didn't teach me how to have conflict resolution and like work through things in a healthy way without just like screaming or one party slamming out the door and like, you gotta stay here and work through it. Like, this is your buddy. They're the only other person that's gonna be in your corner through all this stuff. And like, not only that, they grew your baby. Like they made you. They made you there is no father without this person. Like, so to honor them and to respect them. Yeah, man, I love that. It's heavy, but in all the right ways is kind of what my mind is thinking.
Yeah, for sure.
Love fatherhood. Well, and you mentioned a few times that you've lost your wife. So that was not split, divorced. She passed?
She died. Yeah. Last December, yeah, 10 months ago, we lost her. She got diagnosed with cancer in 2020, and we fought for the better part of 5 years, and we just couldn't beat it down. And it was, it took us on the most amazing journey, and the story is incredible. Like, it's something that I wouldn't believe if I didn't experience it. Like, there's so many things that have come from that. And I was thinking, we were talking about vulnerability, like in losing your wife, there's just more emotion than you want to deal with. But what I've noticed is the times where I become, let's say, overtaken by the emotion, my daughters like come to the rescue. And it's like, man, like what a cool thing. Your kid is like coming to comfort you. And it's such a beautiful thing. So yeah, that has been the event that has blown my life into a whole new path. I mean, yeah, it's just crazy. I
Wild.
wouldn't wish it on it.
One, thank you for sharing. Two, what an honor to her for like the awareness that you have and the man that you continue to aspire to be. You're developing and refining. Like, I can't think of a better way to honor her and what you're doing and how you're
Yeah,
raising your.
it's really one of those things where I didn't know what to do with my life after losing her, because it, what do you do? Like, it's your entire life explodes. The heart of your family is gone. It's like, well, what do we do now? Like, I always wanted to come home to her, not to the house, to her. Now she's not here. And now our girls don't have a mother, and they're 8 and 10. It's like they need their mom. Like, there's a lot of things that are going to happen in their life. Mom's not here. And so for me, not being vulnerable is not an option.
Mm-mm.
Because it's not here. You know, and I struggle because I'm not like a cuddly type. I'm just not that person. I don't really like it. And my girls need that. And I have to remind myself, it sounds terrible, but they're little girls. Like, you need to hold them, because sometimes, especially when, like, let's use an example, like discipline shows up because behavior moves outside of the accepted boundaries, right? So you need to like not do this. And then it's like they don't listen. Then it's like discipline time. Okay. And then tantrum starts, and then they get upset and da da da. And then it always devolves into I miss mama, which is the unanswerable thing to say, right? And it was, for a while, I was starting to feel like it was being used as a chess piece,
Mm.
because there was nothing I could really say to that, right? I had to drop my point or whatever. And then I had to begin to say, okay, listen, like, I understand that you miss mom, and so do I. Like, she died to all of us, but we can't use that as a thing to divide us, right? It's not something to use that way. So there's been a lot of learning in that, and a lot of, vulnerability and grace. And I learned a lot of that from her. I wasn't that person.
That's beautiful. Beautiful. There is so much wisdom in just what you're sharing. I wish more men would have the desire, right, to really sit at the current world. And a lot of this podcast focuses on like, right, mental, emotional, physical, but really helping men kind of rise above the standards of the world. It sucks. The standards today are absolutely super, super low. But
Yeah.
in addition to being low, an unbelievable, overwhelming number of distractions.
Yeah.
And I wish more men, like, forcing yourself to learn and grow in some of these areas, like, it's taking the time. Like, I learned a long time ago that my kids spell love Time. Like, it doesn't matter. They want to show me what they want to show me, what they drew, what they made, what they did, like, in that moment. And if that moment is missed, it's gone.
Yeah.
Those 2 minutes, while it might be a little bit of a disruption, it takes me an extra couple of minutes to get back into a rhythm and finish what I was working on. Like, it is always 100% of the time worth
Yeah.
that time in that moment right then. So thank
Yeah.
you for that
But it's a
reminder.
daily, I mean, it's a daily thing. Like, it's not like you just decide and then it's fixed. Like, it's every single day. There's the opportunity to not pay attention, or to, it's just, and it's hard. It's hard to wrestle with that, especially when life presents its, hurdles. It's like, how do you continue to meet them where they are and continue to be available? And there's pressure, and that is.
And ultimately reminding yourself too what you're talking about, like seeing your children, like remembering they're 8 and 10 and that they're still growing and learning at their own ages, but that they were God's children before they were yours. Like that, right? For our kids, and we see them like that they've been entrusted to us to raise and mold and help develop. Like, it's a huge responsibility.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting conversation. I'm glad you brought this up, because I've been thinking about this a lot lately. So you and I and everyone, their first allegiance is to God, right? It's not to your family, to God, right? So when my child, like, let's say, does something against me, like whatever, pisses me off and is arguing with me and all these things. If my first allegiance is to God and I am here as a caretaker, as a shepherd of them, God said, hey, Danny, I entrust you these two girls. Your job is to lead them in a path that points to me. Okay. I behave differently. There's no me in it. It's that same thing I talked about with my dad. Once we can release our individuality, right, our I'm importantness of it, that it's not about me and her clashing. It's about she's rebelling against the boundaries she sees, and she's needs to be helped to understand her path because she's God's child, right? And that's a huge, huge change. But for us as fathers, it allows us, not that it's an out, because it's not an out, but it's a dismissal of the self, right? It's that I don't have to be personally offended or angry personally, because this isn't an attack on me or my fatherhood or my parenting or my worth or my blah, 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 right? All these list of things, right? That's not what this is about. And when I heard that, I was like, that is the coolest thing ever, because it allows you the space to be like, how do I zoom out from a 10,000-foot view and help shepherd my child through this moment?
Yeah.
Which is amazing, right? And then there's also the thought too, inside of that even our spouse is a picture of our love for God, which is really something that really hit home for me. I don't know if you've read the book, what's it called? Fathered by God. Have you read that?
No.
Okay. It's John Eldredge. He wrote Wild at Heart, very famous book, but it's called Fathered by God. But it talks about all the stages that males go through growing up. And it talks about one stage that's the lover. And it's like that he contests that our lover should be God. It's like, okay, well, I hear you, but I'm having a hard time figuring that out, because for me, my lover was my wife.
Yeah.
And I loved her with everything I had. In fact, that's how God found his way into my heart, was through her. But now she's gone. So now what's the story? It's like, well, okay, it starts to make more sense. And like, she is the earthly representation of a love that's so great, I couldn't move my eyes fix my eyes on her. But that is a small representation of what God is to us. But it kind of like, those things really spun me out. And I was like, man, this story is such a big story. And we have so much to learn. And someone, God himself, had enough grace to give me the opportunity to do it. And so, yeah.
There's so much wisdom in your perspective, man. That's I hope guys really marinate on the gravity and the sincerity, having been through what you've gone through. Like that's
it's wisdom is funny, because I don't know that I don't necessarily think it's wisdom, but I would trade it all. I would trade everything that I have to say for my wife back.
Of course.
Like that. Like and people say that, and it's like, man, I don't know. I just feel like going through something, you should share about what you're going through, because you're not the only one. And I've had men that have poured into me and helped me through all this, and it's been such a gift.
And there's a lot of things too. I think that the shame and guilt can be so racking and so overpowering, like where we just talked about, like from a fatherhood perspective and understanding things from kind of that hierarchy of who these children are and really their loyalty, our loyalty, and who we are working to represent and honor every single day. Like that's a beautiful aspect, but it's also liberating at the same time. It's liberating to not live in a space or a place where you're racked with shame and guilt on a daily basis. But that's also the same thing, like, right? You've got Christ, you've got the Savior, you've got this amazing path to be able to turn back, that has already atoned for everything that we could encounter in this life and all of our imperfections. Like what a beautiful sentiment. And it is here. Where it's not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be worth it, right? Like we're here to learn. We're here to grow. And so, people are like, oh yeah, pray about it. I'm like, yeah, be careful what you pray for, because it shows up, right?
Yeah.
It really does.
He sends boats. Yeah.
The lessons show up, man. I think I love that you mentioned too that there's been other guys that you've been able to trust. That takes, I think, a level of capacity to really trust another guy in a way that you can not just be vulnerable, but open up and have somebody know that they're not husband and wife. We see each other like without our armor on, right? So like if something goes bad or you have a controversy or something happens, like I think that's why those wounds can hurt a little bit deeper, is because you've got access to each other, like literally without your protection of the world, without that armor. And it is a special thing to be able to have that resonate with another man, to have like that manly bond in a way that you can trust him and trust that he's not going to share that in a way that's gonna, right, diminish that
Yeah,
trust or not honor that respect. And it's different. It is different. So I love brotherhood for that. I love connecting with the right guys for that. And it took me a while to learn who the right guys were,
for sure.
because a lot of them these days, like, it's not blood. Like, it's not, and it's been wild to like, there's not a blood relation or connection to
No,
this guy. But I'm
no.
like, I've met a few soul brothers and I'm like, we're going to be connected for life. Like, I just can tell. So
Yeah.
it's awesome that you found some solace in that as well. Cause that's a powerful resource.
Yeah, I think if your life moves in the way it should, it moves you outside of your comfort zone very quickly. And then those people start to show up. Like when they say when the student is ready, the teacher appears type of deal. Like that's like your life puts you in a place where you don't know what to do and you have nothing to grab onto. Our life, I lost 2 jobs, lost a house, lost income multiple times, lost all these things, eventually lost my wife. And it's like this unlayering that's happening to you is asking you to make a choice. Like, are you going to seek something else or are you going to try and control it? And my life moved so far outside of my control, admittedly, that I was like, all right, God, I got nothing. Like, I don't, like, I was like, I mean, literally the prayer that happened was there was a full moon in my backyard. I was in Kansas City, Missouri. I walked out back and I was like, God, I can't do this. Like, I cannot financially figure this out. And what I was looking at was $200,000 for 12 weeks of treatment in Arizona. And I said, God, I can't do it. I was like, I will show up for my family every single day.
Yeah.
I will, whatever, sick, whatever. I will show up for my family every single day, whatever I have to do. But you got to help me financially. All that money showed up.
That's amazing.
And there's so many more of those stories that have happened to us. But it was simply because what was demanded from us in that moment was so far outside of our capacity that it was like, can't do it. I'm not going to run. I'm not going to hide, but I can't do it. And I fully admitted I did it last week and it happened again. But it's it's that thing of like, all right, well, there's more to this story, and it's that conversation that we need to have.
Full humility. Yeah. Completely breaking you down to where it's just a full surrender. Like, there is nothing left.
Yeah. I was
Yeah.
like, I mean, I feel like aside from losing my children, I was like, we've lost everything. Like all that we've built, we lost her. We like stuff doesn't matter. Like I don't care about any of our stuff ever, but once you start losing stuff, it's like, okay, what do we got to do?
Yeah. We've been reading through Job with the kids lately. And
Yeah.
they're like, what else? And like, this house falls on his kids and then this, and then his, personal battles and his health struggles. And they're like, what? And they're like,
Well, that's what, like, we literally, my wife and I would talk like, because there were so many things that kept happening and happening and happening. It was like, well, is this another story of Job? Like, it's incredible,
it is.
and it's like, where are you going to, and then we always talked like, would anything happen that would make you turn on God? No. Okay, then, then your path, right?
Yep. Yep.
Then,
I love it, man.
and she said the same thing, it's like, all right, well, just keep going, one day at a time.
Yeah. And for what you said initially when we first started talking too, that you kind of had a little bit more, I think you said vanity or, not so much depth, like until you kind of get to know her. And I
Yeah,
would say she poured a lot into you. And I can see, yeah, you are a man of depth. If somebody did not know any of those things and met you today going forward, like it's easily recognizable that you are
I
that person
appreciate that.
you have grown. So yeah.
It's interesting in our day-to-day life, our reality when people meet us, because we live in a new town for us. Like we live in Austin. We didn't always live here. We moved here like in the last like 5 months of her life. So no one here knows her. Really, there's a few people that do, but so when we meet everybody, it's the conversation like, oh, hey, how you doing? And da da da. Like, and I still wear my ring, and then that comes up and then it's like, okay, here's the story. Like, what am I supposed to do? Not tell someone? And that's really hard to deal with. We've really found a good community here, but it's hard because it's the story. I'm not going to not tell you the story, and it's the most heartbreaking thing ever, but that is our story, and the girls deal with it at school. Like not all the kids know about it at school still. It's just so much.
There is a lot to unpack. I'd love to know, given your perspective, life experiences, everything, where do you see men getting it wrong today? And what's the price they're potentially paying for that?
Getting
What's
it
an
wrong.
area that they could use some significant course correction.
So many are chasing something outside of themselves, and they're not bringing forth what shines in themselves, right? So their focus is chasing something they want. The problem is there's always a chase. Get some food, Lovey. Get some food. Get some food. AC. Okay, look in the fridge. But I've been this guy so many times. Like, I want something, I'm gonna go chase the thing instead of like becoming the you that gets the thing.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I want the money. I'm gonna go sell it and get the money instead of who do I need to become? Who do I need to bring forth that just has that thing? And that's not the importance. It's not the things, because the things all go away. And I've learned so many times, like, all the things go away, and then what are you left with? Like, you're left with you. Like, if I think about all the time, like, what if I sunk my whole entire worth into being a husband? And to be honest, I kind of did. Well, I'm not a husband anymore. And that's so if we as men could just be like, you know what, I'm just going to become the thing.
Yeah. So there's a quote that I've heard so many times that I've done my best to adopt, and your focus forms your future. And at the same time, like in the same breath, I try to resonate with, it's what you do when nobody's watching that truly makes you who you are. Like that refining of your character when nobody else is around and there's nobody there to see it. There's not, the camera's not on, the lights aren't on. Like it's just you versus you, and God's there. What a blessing that you can have that knowledge. But at the same time, like that's really, I think, where the true character, the true strength is
For
derived.
sure.
You're absolutely right. I love that. I love that. Thank you for sharing that reminder, and hopefully guys take that to heart, man.
Well, there's interesting
powerful.
there's interesting sculpture. It's called the Pieta. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's Michelangelo. I'm pretty sure it's Michelangelo. But it's Mary holding Jesus after he's on the cross, and it's sculpted out of one piece of marble. And the interesting thing about it is like, it's magnificent. It's like, you can see like the fabric, and you can look it up. It's beautiful. But the interesting thing about it is that came from a big block of. So the only way that got there was because of taking things away.
Yes.
Chiseling, like it took him like a year or two to make it, like, of constant chipping, hammering, and chiseling, and all of this destruction and carnage to reveal this thing that's so beautiful. And we spend our lives trying to add things to our lives. And it's a wonder that we can't find something beautiful in ourselves, because we keep adding shit to our lives. And America could be the worst of all the countries for this. But it's like, what if we focused on the chiseling away?
Yeah.
What could be revealed, right? And that's a different conversation. I think that conversation takes some age or some like lunacy from a young person, right? Because you have to learn that, right? But that's a very interesting thing.
There's a lot of stories, self-talk, a lot of other work that goes into really refining and making sure that you can live. I heard a funny quote the other day, watched this little video. The guy was talking about people who were a little bit more enlightened and quoting different people that it felt like they had like this incredible harmony in life and really inner peace. But then at the end, he totally dropped a joke that you were not expecting. He was like, yeah, but what happens when you get all this light and you're enlightened and all this stuff? He's like, the bugs are attracted to the light. I was like, oh crap. Like, he's totally right. Like, so you're just going to get more of these kind of annoying pests and different things that are going to show up. Like, it's great to say, do the work, be the light, be ready for what's going to come with it as well. It's a big responsibility that you're going to see to be a lighthouse for other people. Like, it's all the hard things and the people that are happy to drag you down.
For sure. There's so many people, I think like it's a good thing to have that experience, because it's kind of a pass-through point to like whatever you're building, growing, but also it's hard to deal with. I mean, I have some friends that have, that really deal with some stuff. It's like, dang, man, people are just cruel, but what are you gonna do?
For sure. So if you've thought about it, there's a young man out there right now, like ready to give up, thinking like he can't get past what he's going through in the moment. What advice would you give him? What would you want him to know from you, brother to brother?
The biggest breakthroughs I've ever had in my life came immediately after the darkest places I've ever been. And even when you think it's over, it's not over. We all have this fence around ourselves. It's our perspective. And, people have varying perspectives, right? Some people have small ones, some have big ones. But the interesting thing about perspectives is they all live on the same map. And the map is bigger than the perspectives. And unless you are willing to open your eyes to something more, you won't realize there's a map ever. And something crazier than that is that outside of that map lies a territory. and the territory contains a bunch of maps. And then you find out that like, if you keep searching and you keep seeking and you're open to things, you realize that there's something outside the map that I thought was the end of everything. And then beyond that is God, and there are no bounds. And that all the good things in life come from complete commitment. And a lot of times in commitment, there's darkness, but it's because in the darkness, you choose to take one more step that then you see the thing. There's a blessing there, and there is. Yeah. I'd say give it one more day.
Give it one.
Yeah. For sure. It was a pleasure to be on, man.
Yeah. Grateful to have you. I'm sure we'll have you back. But yeah, guys,
Anytime.
Danny, follow him online. We'll drop all of your handle and everything for Insta in the show notes.
Put the book on there. Did you know the book? Have you seen the book?
No. All right. We didn't even get to that. Cool. Author as well?
Well, yeah. So my wife is Rafaela. I'm Danny. So we always wanted to write a book really quick. We always wanted to write a book since like 2021.
Yeah.
We never got to it because of our life. After she passed, I took a whole bunch of her writings from her whole time she was going through this and put them in a timeline. So her voice is telling her story. It's literally unedited, her voice. Yeah. And then I took my entries from that time period and added them. So you have the both of us telling a story.
I love
and
it.
Then we had all of these Jesus moments that happened all throughout, like the $200,000 one. There's a whole bunch of them. I put those in there as well with a Bible verse at the end. So you have this story of hope and love. And yes, there's loss, but it's a story of hope told from three voices: her voice, my voice, and God's voice.
Beautiful.
So I wrote the book, got the book done. The book arrived at my house, sending the book out into the world to people. And then I found one of her journal entries from 2022, from February 6th. I'd never seen it before. So 3.5 years before today, basically. It said, Danny and I are on stage speaking about the book we wrote about our experiences in her dreams and visualizations section. Dude, what a gift. What a gift.
So awesome.
The book is here.
We'll put that in there for sure. Thank you, Danny. It's, yeah. God bless you, your family, dude. Thank you for your time.
God bless you, brother. Thank you for this. It was great. It's great being on.
All right. We'll chat again soon. Be well.
All right, man. Sounds good. Thank you, John.